Thanks, everybody, for joining us for July Principles of the 12 Steps edition of the Third Legacy sponsored workshop that's running all year. My name's Lara, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Lara.
Hi. We got quite a group of folks here today to talk to you about humility. It seems like the humility just brings them out of the woodwork. That's a joke. Anyway, thanks, everybody, for showing up. And I'll turn it over to Stephen.
Okay, thank you, Lara, and again, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us today. And one definition of humility that we can get from page 58 of the 12 and 12 is a clear recognition of what and who we really are. And just that definition can be a workshop topic by itself, because who are we really? And people have said the steps are designed to show us who we really are. One of the benefits of going through the steps. And of course, it's mostly aligned with step 7. And and what is being humble like? I was one of them, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, that when I thought of humility, it was closely aligned to humiliation and being small, which is the best definitions I could come up with, but it's not what Alcoholics Anonymous says at all. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Am I very small, or maybe God created me very big? I'm talking heart-wise. Like, am I big enough to not be offended when somebody says something I don't like? Or am I, which I would say is true humility, or do I stay small and maybe nurse a resentment over that and keep it going? Pam's either looking at me with recognition or, what are you talking about, Steve? Anyway, so we've got several different comments about humility, and I want to start with Nancy. Welcome, Nancy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Stephen, and hello, everybody. My name is Nancy, and I am an alcoholic.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi there. I love this principle. And, as step 7 starts out with humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. Humbly, because I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. I have, at this point in the steps, hopefully I have come to a recognition of the flaws in my thinking and the constant defeat that alcoholic thinking and relying on an alcoholic mind, relying on self-will, relying on fear and control, and holding on to resentment, that none of that worked. But if that is the way that I manage my life, then at this point, hopefully I am ready to give that up, at least little by little. And Stephen, you mentioned that definition. I think it's in the 12 and 12 about a clear recognition of.
Yeah, page 58.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and in step 7 in the 12 and 12, which is this one, I really believe that principle, that what you just said, the clear recognition of who and what we really are. But in order to recognize that, I think that implies that I have had to come to a place that I admitted that I did not know who and what I am. And this did not know, that to me is the basic ingredient of humility, which it talks about in step 7. It says, well, I'm going to read a little bit in here. It said, we never thought of making honesty, tolerance, and true love of man and God the daily basis of living. this lack of anchorage to any permanent values, this blindness to the true purpose of our lives produced another bad result. For just so long as we were convinced that we could live exclusively by our own individual strength and intelligence. That's me with I think I know my own strength, my own intelligence. For just that long was a working faith in a higher power. This says impossible. So I can't hang on to my way and God's way at the same time. This was true even when we believed God existed. We could actually have earnest religious beliefs which remained barren because we were still trying to play God ourselves, which is another way I feel like lack of humility can show up when I'm trying to play God. As long as I place self-reliance first, a genuine reliance upon a higher power was out of the question. And then it ends with that basic ingredient of all humility, a desire to seek and do God's will, was missing. And so this idea of humility, that's where it changed for me, because I had that same pretty basic or elementary school version of humility, where if you could appear small or self-deprecating, that was like, oh, so humble. But that's not what it is. It, at least, through our program of AA, it's not self-deprecation. It's more of a reliance on God, on how God created us. And that goes to your definition, Stephen, this clear recognition of who and what I really am. But how do I move from that I know mind, and I know what that shouldn't have happened and that should have happened, and you can't change my mind and I'm right. It's this how do I go from a version of humility which doesn't work, which is me clinging to the way I am seeing something, and even clinging to myself as I think I am. And so this genuine humility, like how do I know I'm practicing genuine humility, kind of became my question. And for me, it's like, am I willing to be wrong? And I only know that when there's a contradiction in my life, right? That a contradiction comes up, a contrary opinion, and then if I'm like dismissive and no, you're wrong, well, then that is not humble. That is not open-minded. Do I ask for guidance, more than I give it? Do I ask, what would you have me do? Even for myself, for someone else and for myself, am I willing to just ask for guidance? And then another clue is, if I feel defensive, then I know that like I've taken a stand. And taking a stand for me is an internal cue that reminds me to let go of what I think I know and just take a step back and a pause and just listen, just be willing to listen. Anyway, that's the idea of humility that has more come up for me. I'll tell a quick story, and Cindy's heard this story before, so forgive me, Cindy. But when I was working some years ago, and my boss was on, my office was in between my boss and a colleague. And the boss was the boss of both of us, right? And my boss walked past my office one day and into my colleague's office. And right away, I had this feeling like, well, why aren't you coming into my office? What are you going to talk to her about? You should talk to me about it. I had all of these thoughts in my head, but I had also must have just come off of some other experience in the program or something, but because I was also filled with a sense of the presence of God, whatever that might mean to anyone, but I had that sense. And this prayer was given to me. And it just, I knew it was given to me because I would not come up with it. But the words that came through my mind were, let me be forgotten if it means remembering more of you. And then I also could add of my own. And then I get to see if I really mean that. You know, it for me was a real demonstration, a visceral demonstration of humility, that need to know, need to control, need to manage. That if I can gently set that aside and pause and wait and ask, that would produce a much more peaceful experience and helpful experience than me striving for something that I think I needed. So there you go. Back to you, Stephen.
Oh.
Thanks, Nancy.
Thanks, Nancy. And before I call on Claudia, I've got a quick story too. We do a lot of crosstalk at these meetings. So I got to witness what I consider an act of real humility at a meeting in Alcoholics Anonymous. It was 8 years ago, 8.5 years ago, I guess. But my son came into AA. In his very first meeting, every area of his life was a wreck, typical story. And this old timer, Ralph B., with at that time, let's see, it was 8 years. So he probably had like 56, 57 years then. And he was a regular at this meeting. He came up to my son. He didn't know that we were connected at all because it was, my son's first meeting. And he put out his hand and he said, welcome, you can get well here. I did. And Ralph's got a great story. He's been all over the world telling it. And just witnessing that, he knew who he really was. He was a recovered alcoholic, and he knew he could show other people how to recover. And not only that, he showed this whole meeting, which is a very big meeting in Seattle, what humility looks like in action. And the way he treats newcomers, what an example in humility to all of us. And to this day, my son still talks about that he, scared and all that stuff. And he just felt at home with that handshake from an old timer. Anyway, that's my story about that. Claudia.
Thank you, Steve. My name's Claudia. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Claudia.
A friend of ours once said, if you need to talk about humility, you don't have it. So he also had a license plate, Humble One. So I've heard a lot of definition, from the definitions in the 12 and 12 and who I really am and what I really am. And I've heard, doing things for someone else and not getting caught, doing and being right sized and being in the middle, and I'm not the best and I'm not the worst. And I've sat for quite a long time on my own and also talking to others about what's your definition of humility and what do you think that is? I don't think it was an act of humility when I admitted complete defeat over alcohol. It was an act of humiliation. I mean, coming out of a blackout on my living room floor was not, okay, I surrender. It was, oh my God, I never want to feel like this again. I have messed up completely. And I was humiliated. And I had lived my life thinking that I was less than, not good enough, comparing myself to others. I don't have a lot of unique thoughts in this, comparing my insides to other people's outsides and always coming up short. So if I didn't think much of myself, then obviously that was humility. And then I get into AA and I start hearing the word humility, and I read about it in the 7th step. And I'm like, how do I humbly ask? You know, how do I put myself in a position of being willing to change? And not just I'm I have friends who says I felt lower than worm sweat. And you know, if I can't change, then I might as well not even bother. So how do I put myself in a right position for change? And that means I have to have a right image of myself. And that's really hard for someone like me. I mean, I could get all the attaboys in the world. I could have people, oh, you're smart and you're successful and you've done this and you've done that and you've got wonderful husband, you've got wonderful children, and you know, and it's like, oh, thank you. You know, that's not about seeing myself right size. That feels good for a minute. That feels good when I'm being complimented, but I have this hole in my soul, in my that there's not enough to feed that. And you know, and then I hear I didn't do it well enough. I should have tried harder. I didn't stick to my regimen. And for some reason I've got this weird brain, and I don't know if it's alcoholism, I don't know what it is, but it seems like all the compliments, all the positive things, and the things that are supposed to build me up are fleeting, and they sort of go in and they come out, and then I go back to zero. But it's when I hear the criticisms of others and of myself, and I see where I failed something or I didn't do it well enough. Man, that stuff's like a fly trap. That just sticks with me. And so somewhere between wanting to hold on to all of those good things, or how do I let go of those bad things, is finding that center, finding that right size. And I cannot think my way to it. I just can't think my way to right size. You know, because I can justify the heck out of anything. You know, it's like having ADD. It's like squirrel, you know, and oh, good, look at how well I did. Oh, look at how badly I did. You know, I'm trying to lose 5 pounds and I gain 2. It's like so I have to get out of the way. And, you know, I can do prayer meditation. I can sit quietly, and I don't feel that in that action it fixes it. So I have to go to greater lengths. One of those greater lengths is thinking of others, is getting out of the way and thinking about what I could do for someone else. And even then I have to be careful, because there are people who remember birthdays and holidays and send cards and send flowers and do these things, which I think are remarkable acts of getting out of self. And then I don't live up to that. And so now I have something to feel badly about. So I have to be careful about setting, you know, oh, gee, I really want to be that kind of person who sends positive Christmas letters and remembers everybody's birthday. Well, I'm not. But it's answering the phone. It's going up to somebody at a meeting. It's, you know, if somebody's sick, saying, listen, I'll prepare a meal and bring it over. It doesn't even have to be somebody in the program. It's, you know, it's remembering that somebody had something going on in their life. And I know this sounds trite. somebody goes to the doctor and has the flu. And can I take a minute out of my busy day and send them text message and ask them how they're doing? Do you need anything? Can I be of service to you? Can I be of service to someone else? Can I show up even if it's not convenient? And those are the kinds of things that I have to do, because when I do those things, I get out of evaluating whether I'm on the right side or the wrong side of humility, if that makes any sense. I mean, to me, humility is a level of feeling. Good enough, not too high up, not too low, right in the middle. So there's this thing, and if you put me in a room by myself, I'm constantly going to review everything I've done in my life, and it's either going to fall here or here, and that doesn't work. So I get out of the way, I put all that in the closet, and I say, I'm just going to try to be the best person I can today and see if I can get out of myself. Do something for someone else. Give somebody encouragement. And when I'm doing that, and the act of doing that is feeling right size. Humbly asked him, I want those defects of character removed, the ones that are not useful. And it's that act of humility is saying, I'm not the worst. I'm not the best. I have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. But can I approach the world in a humble attitude, that I can be useful? If I'm going to finish with, when I was young, when I was a kid, or even in my teens, for some reason, I thought all I wanted to do was feel useful. I didn't want to be president, and I didn't think I needed to grovel. When I was in high school, I worked at a school for disabled children. I remember it was hard, but I felt useful. And I never understood what useful felt like until I got sober. And I had opportunities to reach out and to be of service to others. And as a result, I have found other opportunities in my life where I can feel useful. And that's the best I can achieve. So to me, that humility is feeling useful, right size, and just get out of my own way. That's it. Thank you.
Oh, thanks,
Thank you.
Claudia.
Thanks, Claudia.
Pam?
Oh, gosh, I'm Pam. I'm an alcoholic.
Pam?
I didn't study for this test, but
You don't need to.
oh gosh, oh gosh. So, I had that definition from step 5 printed on a little piece of paper. It had it on my computer at work because when I first got sober, I had no clue. I went to step meetings and big book studies from the very beginning, but this was just so too deep for me. I did not have a clear recognition of who and what I was. And, I just I'm going through the steps with a sponsee, and we were doing the 10th step the other day, and that line about alcoholics have, we've never done accurate self-appraisal. I had no idea who and what I was. And so I I did the steps in my first year, but it was such a, halfway there, thing. And as I've been around, and I mean, for a long time. I remember I was chairing my home group for my 10th birthday. And at that time, I was so spiritual that I practically levitated as I was chairing. And I just thought everybody's gonna be so impressed. And after the meeting, this guy came up to me and said, I remember you. You're the lady that used to pee your pants. And I just thought, well, he didn't get my, but that guy did more for me than, it's that identification and that being right sized. I'm not the person who got drunk and passes out and pees her pants and then blames one of the kids for doing it on the couch. But I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that I've had time to learn. I ended up going to college when I got sober, because I had no job skills, really. I was faking it all my life, and I ended up being a high school teacher, and I have learned more from my students. And I think, the thing is, we have so many kids that are neurodivergent now. And I've learned there's a lot of right ways of being, a lot of right ways of doing something. I was so convinced. I come from a culture of, well, that's the right way. And I had to unlearn. I had to unlearn so many things. I just, and now today I have 6 grandkids and 7 great grandkids. And my great grandson wants to earn money to get a PlayStation. So I let him sand and paint a picnic table yesterday, and he spilled about half a can of paint. And thank God I put a blue tarp on, the garage floor. But I just thought I am not gonna yell at him about screwing up. We all have to learn and we all make mistakes. And I think that's one of the things I've learned in my sobriety. I'm from a family of people yelling at you for making mistakes, and that doesn't teach you anything. I'm just grateful that I had Joe Monda as my service sponsor and teacher, because you were talking about that, Claudia. I love that we can crosstalk. The fact that he stressed not, doing good things, but not telling people.
Right.
John Gillis was the same way. There's a guy in my home group, and both of us have been donating blood for a long, long time. And both of us have a leaf up at the blood bank with our number, but we don't tell everybody how good we are. But if somebody goes there and sees our names up there, we just go, well, you can thank John for that. We do those things because they're the right thing, and we don't have to let the world know. Now you guys all know I've given over 200 times, but that's that thing about being of service to others, and I'm just so grateful for that. That's another thing. This is based on, we're kind of the principles of the 7th step, but I just see all the steps as circular. And for me, that they all come around to one another. And Joe's the one who got me doing the 11th step prayer in the morning. And that's all about, being of comfort rather than, love rather than, all that kind of stuff. And I'll finish by saying, that prayer came to me when I was 15. My parish priest, Father Felix, had to listen to me snivel all the time about all the work. My mom owned Fiddler's Inn Tavern, and I have 4 younger brothers, and I had to do everything. And I was sniveling to Father Felix, and at 15, he gave me this book on St. Francis of Assisi. And I thought, well, he's just trying to get rid of me. And then when I came to AA 25 years later, I thought, oh man, Father Felix, I finally get it. It's that, just get out of yourself, you little brat. So, it's such a gift that we can keep on learning, and that these steps really help us to get down to, I'm not levitating, but I don't pee my pants anymore. Thank you. Well, yes, I do. But it's because I'm an old lady.
You don't have to be old. Middle-aged ladies get there.
It's fine. It's just the way plumbing works. Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, so speaking of middle age, we go to Marty, who had a birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday.
Birthday, kiddo.
Yeah, thank you. My name's Marty. I'm alcoholic.
Hey, Marty.
Grateful to be alive and sober. Thanks for asking me, and thanks to everybody who's in service to this meeting. Yeah, this is always a great topic. I mean, of course, I knew nothing about it when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, and just for a little while before we started the meeting, I called this friend of mine, Charlie. And we always used to joke that he was my humility sponsor, and he says, "Oh yeah, mention my license plate." Well, Claudia did that, so that threw me off my plan. But so I was ask AI, what is what is humility? It's interesting. A modest or low view of one's own importance. And it doesn't mean I have a low view of myself, but a low view of my importance. And because I was pretty self-important for a long time. And I had some great examples. So I had this uncle who was, I actually had two uncles who were Christian brothers, right? And the Lasallian Christian brothers, not the Irish one, not the one with the brandy. So, and they were so different, the two of them. So the older one, Brother Baldwin, who was Dan Jr., was the oldest boy in the family. And he was a mountain of a man, big guy, and he was grandiose and a big shot and everything the whole time. He actually left the brothers when he was 60 and hijacked a nun who was the Blessed Virgin Mary, the BVMs, they were pretty strict. They were married like 35 years. But the younger brother, Brother Daniel, this guy was like, I always had the example. He was just such an example of complete humility. And of course, I really didn't see it. Just said, oh, he's just such a nice guy. He would always defer to everyone and everything and never talked about himself. And it was unbelievable. I was one of the last family member to have a meal with him because I would see him whenever I got to St. Louis, for work. And sometimes I would spend a night at the brother's residence with him. And his cancer came back at 77. It took him. And just before that, we're having a meal and he goes, yeah, he said, you're probably one of the last members of the family to have dinner with me. Just like that, and it was like, he lived such a simple life. And I thought, gosh, I'll never be able to get that level of humility, and, but on the other hand, I can make progress because part of just the reverse pride of what I call arrogant self-criticism, where I'm so hard on myself, you're too, you should be better than that by now, and there's no humility in that at all. I'm an imperfect, my life is perfect, but I'm an imperfect human being, right? And I'm flawed. And that's okay. And I think about humility. I think what they said was that if you think you got humility, you don't have any. Yeah. So it's like being asked to just talk on humility is like, okay. So there I was, in the Congo. I always get back to that, and I'm a storyteller, and I have to be careful because I get seduced by my own stories, and I have to be careful about talking too much about myself, and then So I practice things like when I meet with people is ask them about themselves. Tell me your story. How are you doing? You know, and I have to, you know, so my uncle, a Christian brother, this came naturally to him. You know, I mean, he didn't have to think about it. It was just his state of mind. And that's a state, it's an incredible state of mind to have. I have to work at it. I have to consciously work at it. I have to consciously abandon self all the time. And because I get sucked right back into it. I think I mentioned it this morning. You know, ego is the first thing to recover. And there's no humility in that at all. It took me a long time in sobriety to start to comprehend the true nature of humility. And not just abandoning self as trying to think of to put the words as this act of like self-deprivation, but as you know, an act of kindness to turn my thoughts to others. Don't focus on self, turn my thoughts to others. And that too is something that doesn't come natural to me, you know, and I don't think it comes natural to the average human being. But for me as a recovering alcoholic, it's 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 really necessary that I practice that on a regular basis. That I hope you don't hear that phone. Can you guys hear that dinging?
A little bit.
Oh, geez. So, yeah, I'm really important. I get all these messages. Not true. It's probably junk texts. So I was thinking about that. Gosh, nobody calls me anymore. You know, I'm living up here. I have all this solitude, this beautiful, beautiful place we live, and I wanted this peace and this solitude. And I'm like, gosh, nobody's calling me. Back to self, right? Back to self. And once again, I'm reminded that's the beauty of Alcoholics Anonymous. I get to be reminded of the nature of my malady, you know, every time I'm in a meeting. And it's selfishness and self-centeredness. And as I try to move towards humility, as I struggle to, you know, I get to, in the process, hopefully be of service to others, you know, in some way, some fashion. And yeah, I can mumble on about that, but I think that's enough out of me. So thank you so much. I'll pass.
Thanks, Marty. And Sprout?
Sure. Hi, my name is Sprout. I'm an alcoholic.
Howdy,
Hey,
Sprout.
I like Pam, I didn't prepare. I didn't do any homework. But when I think about humility, more than wanting to define it, which I find elusive, it's an action. It's something I can see more than something I can say. Like the wind, you see after the wind goes, you see what the wind did. And I think when I see people who are demonstrating humility, that's easier for me to describe than to define. So when I see the old timer walk up to the newcomer and shake his hand and welcome him, you know, that's, to me, that's tangible. When I see someone go out of their way to be polite or to pick something up, or just the small acts, it's the small acts that add up, I think. And they're not something, I'm not gonna make any sense today, but they're not something that like is on my to-do list. Today I should be humble. Like it doesn't work that way.
Mhm.
But when I, without grumbling, let people in traffic, because that's the way my spirit is.
Oops, we lost the inner group. Yeah, I think they lost their signal or something.
Hopefully it's not still being, but it wouldn't be being recorded then, would it? If they're
Yeah.
not there. Let me text him.
Hey,
He's saying, can you hear us? But we don't
I,
see you.
yeah, it's weird that they're just gone.
Yeah, and that,
It's not Zoom, because we're
yeah,
all still on here.
because we're still here.
Yeah,
He's saying something.
sorry, that was Brian calling me from the Arctic Circle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're on some long bike ride, but he was asking me about, they want to get the stuff into the bird word about the New Zealand conference.
okay.
So we'll talk about that later.
Are
So
you
what's
going
going
to-
on? What's going on with them?
Lara's working on the video. So
Oh, can they hear us?
I don't,
No, they're gone. They're not
Yeah.
on the Zoom
Right.
portion
But
of
it's
this.
but it's open. It's open. They're not on it.
It's like they've been logged off.
Right.
So they have to somehow log back in.
although he said, let's see, I asked him if they could hear us. He's saying something.
No, they're not on there at all. They're not on Zoom.
But why would he say she's working on the video?
Yeah, because they're not on Zoom. If they
Yeah.
only had audio, you would still see a box.
Yeah, because she
That-
said, have you said anything? It's like,
No,
yes,
we're having a conversation.
yes,
Inner group.
we've been
Oh.
talking. Maybe he wants us to get off, so.
Should we all log off and then log back on?
Well, let's
that's what-
see.
Oh, here they come.
Oh,
Here it is. Okay, now you guys are back, but you're muted. There you go.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, we're gonna have to stop. Apparently the computer in the office stopped. So sorry about that.
okay, so
Yeah, you guys,
so should we go?
yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
Thank you for
Sorry.
an opportunity
nice
to
day.
be.
yeah, and good to
Have
see
a
you, Lara.
nice day.
Okay,
Good to see you too. Sorry about that.
bye, you guys. Bye, Marty and Claudia.
Bye-bye.